Welcome to building a form from scratch. In this project we will build a new project based on the console application, giving it a name student data just for the sake of having a good name, and we'll change the main class name. The first thing we do is change it to student data form because that's the job it's going to do. Now we're going to add some references. We'll right click on references and then this box appears, and from this box we choose System Windows Forms and System Drawing, both of which will be needed in the project we're developing. Once we've done that, we go OK, and we can add the namespaces to the program, being Windows Forms and System.Drawing. Then we can make our form in our program inherit from the base form, and we can then make a new form of the student data form type and then run it using application.run student data form or my data form. And what happens is that a form box will be displayed once you press the green arrow to run the project. Now we're going to add a control. The first control we'll add is a list box, although later on we'll remove that list box and replace it with a couple of edit boxes and a few other things. But at the moment we'll start with a list box, which will be a convenient place to show the data we do. We add this in a constructor that allows us to create one of those and add a position, and also add that control to the display box, and there it comes. So when we run it, now we're going to read in some data, but first of all we need to add system.io to our namespaces list, and then we're going to create the file for ourselves from here, make sure it's saved somewhere that we can access it in our project quite simply. We do this by adding a new item to the project, and we select a text item in this case and give it a good name, which in my case is test1.txt. Once we've chosen that, we press add and it will add to the project. We need to change the way it's copied in its properties, document properties at the bottom there. Originally it will come up as do not copy, and we will change it. We'll be given the option of copy always or copy if newer, and we're going to choose copy always, but you could copy if newer, but we could choose copy always. Just makes a little bit more time when you run the program. So now we'll add some text to this. What we're going to do is add some data for our student database, which is the name, the course that the person is on, and the year they are on the course. That's the text I've done. When I save that, when I run the program, that will be saved and copied into the correct directory so that it can be read by the program. Now we need to add a stream reader to open that stream reader and use it in a loop down here, which is going to read it into a string, and then at the moment it's just going to display that string into our data display item list, which we've been using before. You have to open it with the string name of the file, and you might notice that Microsoft is not case sensitive, so the fact that our file is called test with a big T doesn't affect it when I've called it test with a little t here. Right, there we go, and when we run it, up it comes and all of the stuff from the file is added. Now we're going to add a class to keep our student data in. We do this by right clicking on the solution window again and saying add a new thing. This time it's a class, and I'll call my class student data. I add that and immediately change the name to student data class as I start to add my constructor. That's because I got it wrong to start with. Anyway, we add some properties to that, the name, the the course ID and the year number. We add a constructor that allows us to make a new student data class item with sending it a string for the name, a string for the ID and an integer, and then we add a couple of getters for our parameters, the name, the course ID and the type. And now we can add data places in the form to allow that to work. Student detection, student data class student, and a list to put those into. And now I'm going to do a clever thing by getting the string that we input and splitting it up using the .split method from the string class and putting it into an array of strings called values, so that values 0 will be the first string that it finds, which is the student name. So now when I run it, all that appears in my data box are the names. Now from now on I'm not going to use that data box anymore. I will remove it from the program, but instead I make a new student out of the data I've read in, and I'm going to add a few text boxes to put that data into. I would put in a text box for each of the items, size and position them, and then add the lines needed to take those things that I've added and put them into the text box. And what I'm going to do is do that for the first item in the list, and all the other items, each one, including the first one, I will put into the student list. And then look, I'm going to set the text for each of the 3 text boxes I've added to have the name, the course ID, and let's run that, and there it comes up, and the first data is in there. Now obviously I want more than just the first piece of data to be able to be written, so I'm going to add some labels just to prettify my box, and some buttons which will allow me to step through my program. Here's the labels, and position the buttons, check that they're okay, make sure that they look nice. Yep, they're in a good place. So now what do? I will now add a method that will display the record into those 3 boxes. And I've also added a record number so I can keep track of which one I'm actually displaying. Then I will write the button handler, which will handle the buttons. So I've got button handler. When the forward button is pressed, it's going to display the next record by sending display record with the current record number +1, and when I press backwards it will do the opposite. Obviously I have to put limits on this, so if I get to the end of the file I will not go any further forward. Now I add an on-clicked method event handler to the button itself, both the forward and the backward button, and when I run them I can now move forward and backwards through the stuff. So there's another record. Now I'm going to add a new property to my student type, which is a picture. I don't have pictures of these fictional characters, so I've added myself as the first student, and now I can display a pretty picture of me as a because I've actually got one of those. Just put that in. Add to the namespace that will allow me to have images in my thing, and add a new property that is the image that I'm going to display. I will also need to add a new constructor, and the image is set up from the string that I'll pass the constructor, which is where the image is found. And then I add a couple of if statements to my display formula, so that if I've got a 4 parameter student that I read in, then I call one of those constructors, and if I've only got 3 parameters I call the other. Now I'm going to add a picture to the project. Right click on the property on the project again and bring up the picture you want and say add it, and it will then Again, come in, and then once more I'll need to move the type from copy, do not copy, to copy if newer. I'll add in the displaying of that thing, and what I need is another little control to be doing that, and it's a picture box. So I make a picture box called picture, and I add my new image to that. Now, if I don't have a picture, then it still works, but when I go back to the one which does have my pretty picture in it, it appears in the box. And that's all I'm trying to do. Okay, have fun trying to do it again. Bye.